property, personal harm to individuals have transpired in their exercise of free speech. These men were peaceful, men and women, were peaceful demonstrators. They wanted their voices to be heard. They wanted someone to hear about the plight of the Western rancher, farmer, loggers, and miners. They wanted the lands rights issues to come to the forefront. They needed help, and nobody was listening. The media was on board. Within 24 hours, they were all organized with the script that they wanted us, the American people, to swallow. So they had all of their buzzwords coordinated and memorized. And they would have had you believe that they were racist or sovereign citizen terrorists, or that they were white right-wing crazies, or that they were bitter religious nuts that were clinging to their guns and religion, end quote. But what is the truth? Who was LaVoy Finicum? Well, LaVoy Finicum was a man of God, first and foremost. He loved his family. We're proud parents of 12 and proud grandparents of 25 now. He lived every day to his fullest. He loved to play and to tease, and he worked very hard for everything that he earned and accomplished in life. He spent years loving and teaching and mentoring teenage boys that we had in our home. He loved his neighbor and he gave freely. He had a dream to own his own ranch, as his father and grandfather did, and he was able to realize that before he was killed. He loved his cows. He was strong and courageous. He was principled and trustworthy. He was loving and kind, and he was my true friend. He loved freedom, his agency given to him by God. He loved his children and grandchildren so much that he was willing to stand for them. He loved living in America, and he knew he was blessed to be here. He loved this country and stood for liberty when he was called. I'm not used to, hopefully.
Let's let go of it.
Okay. Technology and me don't mix. There's a picture of our family and some of the kids we had in our home and grandkids. Over the past year, I have been through quite a lot, I'm sure you can imagine, on every front. After the runaround with trying to obtain a death certificate so I could be made representative of his estate, which took 6-7 months, because Oregon did not want to give me a death certificate. They didn't want me to move forward with all the other things that I needed to do. But what I didn't expect was that I would be abused by my own government. I was soon to find out that I was being followed by the FBI to multiple speaking engagements, that the FBI had asked to raid a couple of them, giving excuses of reasons why they felt that was necessary, having venues that would back out because of their intimidation and lies, memos going out to city councils, etc. I had been labeled a sovereign citizen terrorist wife, claiming that I was anti-government and then put on their watch lists. I am not anti-government. I am, as my husband was, for pro-responsible, limited government. We believe that our First and Second Amendment rights, we believe in the Constitution to be the law of the land, and that we should stand up to defend and protect it. Officials, the Senator Wyden, Governor Brown, the FBI Director, Comey, Loretta Lynch, wanted his voice to be silenced. They want our voices to be silenced. In Ephesians 6:12 it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of the world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." I think we see a lot of that today. Samuel Adams said, "If ever a time should come when vain and aspiring men shall possess the highest seats in government, our country will stand in need of its experienced patriots to prevent its ruin." I'm looking at a room full. A couple of the things, like I said, besides the FBI intimidation and slander, murder, I've pressed forward, trying to solve some of my other problems. In particular, I became a new rancher overnight. I'm the city girl who married the cowboy, and I still don't know how to saddle my own horse. My daughter helps me with that. She teaches me a lot. With that said, I've been learning to do hard things, and I know that I can do hard things. I've been out working the ranch, and it came time to put my cows back on the ranch, and the BLM, of course, insisted that I no longer had a permit. My attorneys and I have been working with them and trying to communicate for almost a whole year now, trying to secure my right under my husband's permit as a transferee of my husband's rights under testamentary disposition. Instead of following this clear federal regulation, the BLM instead obfuscated, refused to acknowledge that I was my husband's wife and widow. They denied that I had any right to that permit and pretended that it simply was terminated upon his death. We showed them federal regulations that authorized the transfer of rights of that permit to me, and instead they obfuscated and ignored it. To this point, they have refused to even acknowledge my rights under a clear federal regulation, 4110.2-3E, which is of the transfer of grazing preference, and instead ignored me and continued their obfuscation, thus forcing my cattle off my land and forcing me to go through the litigation process now for almost an entire year. Let's go over this again. First, trying to get an agency to work responsibly with the ranchers, apparently too much to ask for these days, and when and if they deny me my right to operate under my husband's permit, which so far they will not do officially, I am then second required to appeal to that very same agency for a review of their own decision before I'm allowed to then litigate in court. And third, because they won't even give us, my attorney and I, the courtesy of an expeditious denial, we have been forced to go through what could be seen as a separate but equally slow channel to find remedy, which is through a congressperson's office. In summary, the effort required for a simple American to exercise their right is so monumental as to make it nearly impossible to earn our rights. To top it off, it's also important to note that if we don't go through this process, I can be denied all rights to litigation in the future for not having exhausted my administrative remedy, which ironically, that administrative remedy is sought from the very same administrators who have been ignoring and disruptive to me in the first place. All I've experienced is delay after delay. They're hoping that I will quit, fold, go bankrupt, sell, so that they don't have to deal with me, so that maybe this sets precedent and they can do that to the next person. Well, my husband, I should say, was willing to lose his ranch for what he believed in. And I couldn't, in good conscience, do anything but what he did. and that is to stand for what I know is right. And I will not stop. I know that they have silenced his voice. But in doing that very thing, he has created 13 more of us, 12 kids and myself, that are speaking out very loudly and are not willing to stop. I don't understand this. I don't understand why they are picking on this particular situation, other than, I don't understand why I'm the subject of their abuse, other than I know that they want to make an example out of me and of my husband, to put more fear into the hearts of all of you. So if they can shoot a man 3 times in the back and kill him dead for standing up for property rights, for standing up for liberty, and then take everything his widow had, not allow her to put her cows back on or continue ranching as the family wants to do, then maybe you will think twice before you open your mouth and stand for liberty. I know that the men that are in jail, suffering in these federal prisons, is horrifying. The ones that should be in prison aren't there. These men should be home with their families. One of the ways that I'm funding these legal battles that I have with the BLM and the wrongful death suit of my husband is I am selling my husband's book that he wrote before he passed away. He wrote this and it was published in 2015, and he was killed and shot, 5 months later. He wanted to teach people about freedom, and he had this story in his mind, and that he felt that that was where he could best serve. And his book talks of a family struggle to come together and survive. It deals with what matters most in crisis, during a crisis and chaos. It is about loyalty and bravery, fortitude, family, freedom, and sacrifice. It's action-packed for you guys. He has developed his characters so well that you will hate the bad guys and be inspired by the good guys. It will leave you asking yourself, what would I have done? Am I prepared? Have I prepared my children? What kind of person am I? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? This book also highlights human weaknesses of every kind, and these weaknesses are exposed during the trials and crises that we face. It will leave you asking, what would I do? A friend of mine was inspired this way after reading LaVoy's book. He said, a major theme of this book is that the people we each are before the collapse will be the people we are the day after the collapse. So spend your time now being the people you want to be. It's about preparing your children. Teach them about faith, hard work, justice, and freedom. LaVoy's personal knowledge of the joy and love within a family is very enviable, leaving you with wanting to spend more time doing what you love and with who you love, inspiring you not to waste time. I was so touched by that review from my friend, because that is exactly what LaVoy was trying to do in writing that book, to teach, to inspire, and to put people into action.
American, stand. The night is far spent. The Constitution has been shredded, but it lives in your heart. You know what freedom is and what freedom isn't. Stand, because when you stand, others will stand with you. And God can't stand with you if you don't stand.